Greetings, viewers, and Happy New Year's! Welcome to the year 2013 and another episode of FitzRupee Cast featuring DoW2 Retribution. Red-Rupee here, calling the shots for you as always today. And since it was New Year's Eve last night, hopefully none of you are worse for the wear. But we're just going to go ahead and have a nice, easygoing, wacky 2-on-2 game here on a nice custom map known as Biffy's Peril Redux. A pretty cool looking map aesthetically here. It actually, looking at that opening intro shot of the map screen, kind of reminded me of the Lost Temple map from Warcraft 3. But anyways, let's go ahead, take a look around here. This is going to be my last 208 Elite mod game, by the way. After this, we're going to be moving on up to 2010. As we can see here, each base has kind of a little Space Marine stronghold right here. This is going to be what all four bases look like. However, I wanted to note that the turret placement is a bit questionable. There's nothing very far back, so if you get past this initial turret point, it's probably pretty exploitable to get into the opponent's base. There's plenty of garrisons back there, but I don't like those turrets being so far up myself. Hopefully that won't be exploited in this game. All in all, it's kind of a nice symmetrical map. We've got VPs running along the side here. You can see starting at the red team's natural and then going straight down the corner to the contested, and then down to the blue team's natural. And then we've got contested power on either side, rec points on all sides of the VP here in the center, and lots of green cover. So this, as you can see, this is a Chaos versus Space Marine team game. So probably going to be seeing some nice long firefights between all this green cover in the central point. There's the center VP up on that altar. Pretty cool looking map, a bit flat, not too much going on as far as the terrain, but it should be a fun map to play on, and if nothing else, it'll provide an interesting game, little change of scenery and terrain. But, oh, and don't forget, I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. I will be announcing the winners to the holiday giveaway shortly here today. But that's not going to be in this video. Going to keep you folks in suspense a bit longer for that one. But the winners have been picked, and I'll be announcing them shortly. Anyways, let's go ahead, take a look at our game right now. On the blue team, we've got the classy brother Captain David as the Chaos Lord. Starting off the blue team, his brother in arms, CastleRoad, as the Plague Champion. And then on the opposing sides, our double force commanders, Mr. Blauwind, and then his ally, Kaldoot. Quite a few very solid players here. Let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to see whether Chaos or Space Marines decide to go ahead and take this terrain. I guess we're going to be missing out on both of these force commanders running around pontificating here with their wacky Space Marine dogmatic nonsense, and instead we'll be listening to the more stridulous voices of the Chaos Lord and his buddy, the Plague Champion. We can see classy brother Captain David going for a triple heretic build, which will be interesting. I was just mentioning that with all this green cover, we'll probably be seeing some kind of long-term ranged battles here between the Chaos Space Marines and the Tactical Space Marines, but perhaps not with brother Captain David going for kind of melee-heavy oriented build right here. I'm sure we'll be seeing some nice Corn Worship along with this Chaos Lord. He's just going to stomp on all the green cover anyway, so I suppose it doesn't matter too much. He's kind of being a bit indecisive as to whether he wants to engage or not. He probably should have just pushed that and tried to get those attacks tied up. In the meantime, he took lots of unnecessary range damage right there. Here comes another charge. Let's see if he commits this time. Force Commander's just kind of hanging back, buying his time, getting some caps in on the requisition points, getting some resource income going here. And in the meantime, oh my goodness, Force Commander up top getting very low. He may go down to that dot. Oh, the Plague Champion does so very much damage on retreat thanks to that damage over time. It doesn't do any reduced damage on retreat, so it actually makes sure you always retreat a little early against the Plague Champion, because that damage over time, especially on those single model squads like Librarians or Hero or what have you, are a lot more likely to cause some serious damage on retreat if they get focused by that Plague Champion. In the meantime, brother Captain David getting hacked up by a Force Commander right now. Looks like Kaldoot is doing a good job of keeping that Chaos Lord at bay, just kind of kiting around, using his Force Commander to harass heretics and get some requisition loss and bleed in there. In the meantime, it looks like the Force Commander gets knocked back into a pile of heretics without his battle cry. He's not going to be able to deal with that on his own. Blue team's taken possession of both of the contested power nodes, but red team's going to have the VP pressure here, it looks like momentarily, as the scouts are keeping that central contested VP. Plague Champion's moving back out onto the field with that early Force Commander kill. He's going to be on the upper hand against Blauwind, as this is a rather big spread out map. That's one of the things I don't necessarily like about these custom maps, is that most of the map makers just decide they're going to use the entirety of the square. And if you look at the in-game maps, a lot of them don't really do that. So this map's going to be a bit more spread out, probably both players kind of fighting on their own for a while before they get into the larger team fights later on, probably in Tier 2. Nice use of Nurgle Worship. These attacks are kind of just hanging out in green cover. They're not going to be doing anything to these Chaos Space Marines so long as they're under that Worship, however. Force Commander's heading down. It looks like Blauwind's going to start supporting Kaldoot in this Chaos Lord kind of melee brawl that we've been seeing down here. Brother Captain David did bring some Chaos Space Marines on the field finally, but still has those 3 heretics. CastleRoad bringing some Raptors on the field. Blauwind looks like he might be holding out for a second squad of Tax, since he didn't get that second scout squad. We can see Kaldoot already going for the Armor of Alacrity and the Power Sword, so he's going to be a real menace to these Chaos Space Marines early on. However, we're seeing these Chaos Heretics kind of just run around and dodge those special attacks, buying some time while that battle cry wears off. However, it looks like it's kind of a 2-on-1 situation down here, because CastleRoad's not down here with any support at all. We can see on the minimap he's moving into support, but it might be a bit late. All the Heretics and Chaos Space Marines decide to fall back just as CastleRoad gets into here to help. It's going to be enough to scare off Blauwind, however. And elsewhere, looking up top, we can see scouts capping some generators going up for the blue team. They have 3 at their natural, 1 on the contested point. Red team has managed to get at least one of those contested powers back into their hand. Kaldoot obviously getting shotguns for his scouts to help kind of deter that heretic and melee pile that's been harassing his tactical marines. So Chaos Lord, also equipped with the Comet Flamer, going to be very useful for that kind of kiting game that Kaldoot's been playing so far. That Comet Flamer will allow him to really pick off some of these scouts and maybe even Tax. I mean, he does very reasonable range damage. And one of his Heretic squads getting upgraded to grenade launcher, so really, Brother Captain David recognizing that Kaldoot's been winning the kite battle and deciding to go in for some ranged weapons of his own. Using this Corn Worship in the meantime to get Heretics in on these tactical marines. A shotgun blast will surely deter that, however. But there's way too much coming in here. Kaldoot's getting doubled all the time by both CastleRoad and Brother Captain David. Blauwind needs to get down here to either support his teammate or just go for the Gen Bash up here. He could just steal this contested power and take that for himself. Blauwind has some Assault Space Marines over here. No second scout, but getting himself some Assault Space Marines. However, I just don't think that's a good choice considering the current army makeup of this Chaos team right now. I mean, pretty much everything they have on the field is melee right now. Looks like those Heretics are just barely getting out of there. But I mean, other than this squad of Chaos Space Marines and of course the Plague Champion himself, everything else on the field is melee based. One of these Heretics did go grenade launcher, so that's going to help out, but Assault Marines are just not cost effective at all when fighting Heretics, especially with that Aspiring Champion on there, so Blauwind's going to have to be very cautious into where he jumps those Assault Space Marines, especially if they don't have much support. Brother Captain David's heading into Tier 2. The blue team definitely has the power advantage right now. Red team finally got that contested node, started building their second gen farm, so both teams have 2 gen farms. You can see the map's just about split down the center right here. The only difference, of course, this natural requisition point right in front of the base of Mr. Brother Captain David. Both Force Commanders now, though, with their power swords. Artificer armor for Blauwind and Armor of Alacrity and the Iron Halo for Mr. Kaldoot. So both with a power sword, but one's going to be quick and the other one's going to be a bit more tanky with that Artificer's armor. And so far, I mean, I've just kind of been constantly seeing Kaldoot running the field with this Force Commander, just being hyper-aggressive. I mean, once you see that Armor of Alacrity, you kind of have to expect that. With that sprint and speed increase, running around with the Power Sword, he just does some really solid damage in melee. 391 to 417. VP's pretty solid. Red team's a bit behind so far, I feel like, as far as tech and maybe even manpower at this point. Chaos Lord deciding not to capture the power. He's going to just go ahead and destroy it with that Comet Flamer. Just burning it on away. Wears off just before he finishes the kill. He's just going to go in and whack away at those generators for the time being. Double Shotgun Scouts doing a good job of trying to keep the melee at bay. Grenade Launchers doing a good job of mixing between support fire and then worship in between their volleys of grenade launchers. Force Commander moving in on this side of the map. Up top we can see Scouts upgraded with both sniper rifles and their Sergeant. Plague Champion with no upgrades yet. I mean, with that Power Fist, if he chooses to get the Power Fist or even the Plague Sword, he'd be extremely effective, and that'd just be one more nasty melee threat that the Space Marines would have to deal with. And speaking of melee threats, we have both Blood Crusher and Blood Letters coming onto the field for the blue team. So we're going to see kind of... I don't know, I mean, the blue team has just been going melee heavy so far. We're going to have to see if that works out. I mean, there are two Force Commanders on the field, so that's going to be a pretty strong melee deterrent just on its own. I mean, a pair of Thunderhammers could easily just smash up this army as it currently sits with its composition. Plague Marine turret over here on this side of the power. This contested power is kind of locked down with that turret. It's a little far back. It won't deter power bashing, but it'll stop the cap, I suppose. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, these Bloodletters are now getting into the fray. Haven't seen Bloodletters too much recently here, or Blood Crushers for that instance. However, those Bloodletters a bit overzealous there, teleporting right into where they don't need to be. They may actually be going down here. 60 HP on retreat. Looks like they are going to manage to get out just barely. Both Force Commanders just trolling around down here. A Librarian as well. Blood Crusher's now moving in, though, and there's no real anti-vehicle on the field at all. One of those Force Commanders is going to have to get himself a Power Fist or something along those lines. And again, we're just seeing more and more melee. We can see CastleRoad's Chaos Space Marines upgraded to the Mark of Thorn. So with their Melt Epistles and those power melee they do, going to be a pretty strong threat. Kaldoot's been doing a great job with these double shotgun scouts, trying to keep all the melee at bay, but there's just too much. This Librarian actually goes down on retreat, which Kaldoot had just purchased. That's a big loss early on right here. Don't want to be seeing that. Hopefully he hadn't purchased any upgrades yet for that Librarian. I wasn't paying attention myself. Brother Captain David going into Tier 3 now. Both Blauwind and Kaldoot with tons of manpower. However, they don't have much power income, I think, right now. Blauwind, I mean, I guess at this point has to be holding out for maybe, I don't know, I guess a Dreadnought. But with that kind of requisition, he really needs to be getting something else on the field here. If you just look at the army tab, I mean, the red team's way down in as far as army size goes. So I guess they're holding out for some tech options, but when you're this far down in army composition, you kind of just have to get out of there and bring some tags, bring a Devastator, something onto the field. I feel like Devastators would be, I mean, maybe now that the Bloodletters are here, not as solid of a choice, but the Force Commander can really kind of defend them pretty easily, I feel like. Kaldoot's been taking the brunt of the Chaos Army for pretty much the entire game here. Blauwind in the center of the map, trying to hold the VP. That Force Commander is going to have to get out of here relatively shortly, though. Tax managed to get the Gen Bash as I called, but they're going to be taking some fire from that turret. That turret's just a bit too far back, I feel like, to be effective at defending that power. So that may have been a bit of a waste for the Plague Champion. Plague Champion now with his Plague Sword, his Sword of Undeath right there. Of course, anything he does kill with that will turn into a zombie briefly. before exploding into bits. Blauwind now bringing a Dreadnought onto the field, but at this point he really needs Tax or something else to support it, maybe in the Devastator, something along those lines to just kind of help that thing out. Scout's fully upgraded now with Infiltrate as well. Infiltrate, Sniper Rifles, and Sarges. That's about as expensive as Scouts can get. That's a lot of power to invest in one unit. Hopefully he can put them to good use because the red team really needs a comeback right here. And oh man, we have a Whirlwind Razorback on the field right now, or rather just a Whirlwind vehicle. I know it's a Razorback is just a Rhino with a heavy bolter on top. I know that. Anyways, Whirlwind on the field. Haven't seen those too often recently. They're very fun to use, but they're a lot of power for kind of what feels like questionable usage sometimes. Their rocket spread's very erratic, so a lot of times you can have them on the field, but not really doing too much. Dreadnoughts on the field. Gonna move in on that turret, it looks like. Plague Champion and Heretics and everything. Gonna start doing some heavy damage to the Dread. A Predator's coming out here shortly, and oh my goodness, is that... Oh wow. The Plague Champion changed his turret to a las cannon turret, which I don't think I'd venture to say I've never seen in a competitive multiplayer game here. Raptors trying to beat up these stern guards, but taking a lot of damage on their own. I think this Dreadnought may actually go down to this las cannon turret. The range on it increases very dramatically, and it hits surprisingly hard. Wow, what a... I'm excited. I've never seen a las cannon turret used. At least from the Plague Champion. I have seen, I do believe I have a replay of Bigamo using one as the Tech Marine, but... Wow. That's a nice win for CastleRoad. Taking out that Dreadnought is really... I mean, there's not much left that the red team has right now. Dreadnought's coming out. Both players do have Stern Guard veterans, but they're just sitting at level 1. They've recently leveled up. Here goes a nice volley from that Whirlwind, and as you can see, the rocket spread's kind of ridiculous. It's really more of a disruption unit than a damage unit, so it's tricky deciding whether you want to invest. It's currently in a lot of trouble right now, too, as this Chaos Predator moves in for the kill. I'm surprised it actually backed off right there. Those rocket explosions look very cool. I love the Razorback. Or, sorry, the Whirlwind right there. Force Commander getting some life drain, getting knocked back. Meanwhile, some more artillery rockets coming down from that Whirlwind. Vehicle's probably going to be very effective on this map because there's not really anything to get in the way. It's nice open terrain, no real sight blockers, anything like that. We have these towers right here, which I saw the Stern Guards hanging out inside of. Probably be a nice position to drop a Lasdev or something like that. Just keep it safe in that tower. It probably can shoot probably all the way out to about here or so. This line kind of right here. So it would be a really solid deterrent for that Chaos Predator. But something has to deal with that tank. There is a las Devastator up here from Blauwind. Chaos Raptors already queued up with their Demon Maul, heading into Tier 3. Space Marines way behind in tech. Doing a reasonable job of keeping that VP lead from getting too bad. They're only down by about 100 VPs, and I feel like considering how far behind they are in army composition, that's quite a feat. Double Whirlwinds on the field now. I don't think I've ever seen that either. We're seeing a lot of silly plays here so far this game. But, I don't know, that's the fun of it. Predator taking some fire from the Whirlwind rockets and those Stern Guard anti-vehicle rounds. However, these Whirlwinds need to be very difficult. The only real choke point is getting back into the base. Predator now moving in on one of the Whirlwinds. It's going to try to pull back, but I don't think it's going to be quick enough to get out of there. It gets caught up on the tank traps, stops to turn around, and now it's Brother Whirlwind, maybe in a lot of trouble as well. It should have just moved up this way. There is at least a las cannon up there. Oh no, but the Whirlwind stops. It's just sitting there. Takes a final shot. There it goes, out of control. Crashes into the base turret and explodes. Not looking good at all for the red team right now. They just lost all their vehicles. And they each only have 3 infantry squads. This Blood Crusher still running around unabated, taking some las cannon fire. Raptors jumped in, didn't even knock down or anything like that. They do suppress, but it allows that las cannon to stay set up. Blood Crusher may have just snuck out of range, out of the line of sight of that las cannon. It might, I think, yeah, it's actually still in range, I think. There it goes, the scouts spotted it, or the stern guards, one or the other, and it's gonna go down here. So that's a necessary win. However, there's still just so much chaos on the field. Nice use, I mean, Brother Captain David's been using that corn worship very effectively with all this melee on the field. It can definitely be dangerous as a Space Marine player trying to deal with all this melee. But the blue team has most of the map at this point in the game, and that's kind of obvious if you look at the power, incomes, and resource tabs. Another Dreadnought coming out for Blauwind. However, there are Chaos Terminators on the field. Chaos Predator moving in, gonna try to lock down this VP and keep those scouts from getting any decaps. However, it looks like the Force Commander of Kaldoot coming in, charging angry with that Power Fist. Gets a Fleshover Steel off on that tank. Activates his shield and now is going to start pounding away at the armor of that Chaos Predator. Oh my goodness, it looks like it's going to get away though. Force Commander's trying to move in. Oh my goodness, but the Force Commander of Blauwind actually managed to finish it off with his Power Sword. That tank was low enough that the Power Sword was all they needed to finish that thing off. Scouts and Stern Guards getting forced off by Heretics, and I mean, just everywhere you look, it's Chaos Melee just constantly engaged in a big affray here. No matter where we look on the map. CastleRoad falling back, trying to soft retreat from this Dreadnought. This Dreadnought does have to be careful as that las cannon is still back there. That las cannon turret doing nice damage. Oh my goodness, don't send that Dreadnought in there, Blauwind. We saw what happened last time. Don't lose a second Dreadnought to that las cannon. It looks like that Dread might be escaping here shortly, but it's taken tons of damage from the Raptors and those Hornet Marines. Hopefully it has an Emperor's Wrath or something, but it goes down. That's 2 Dreadnoughts down. Oh, the Devastator falls. Oh, it's brutal. There's just so much melee. If you don't fall back right away, you just start losing everything as Space Marine. I venture to say that this game is closed out. Blue team probably has this one, unless the red team can pull off a miracle. They did manage to take out the Blood Crusher and that Predator finally, but there's just overall too much Chaos Infantry on the field. Force Commander activating his shield after getting life drained once again. Force Commanders trying to do everything they can against this just pile of Chaos Infantry. Stern Guards might be going down. Oh my goodness. Nice teleport by the Bloodletters to finish off that squad, and oh, this does not look like a good day for Space Marines at all. I just don't think there's anything they can do at this point. Oh my goodness, just look at that. Stern Guards obliterated. Force Commander barely escaping. Scouts trying to do what they can to snipe, but there's just too many units for them to shoot. It doesn't matter how much they snipe, they just can't deal with this massive chaos. Kaldoot loses his Force Commander right there in yet another big melee brawl. We've got a Nurgle Shrine going up on this side of the map, another Chaos Predator coming out. And the red team's just doing whatever they can to stay in the game. 331 to 66, however, and I don't see much changing at this point in the game. At this point, it's pretty much essential for them to hold the VP, or at least white out this central VP. They need to bring something onto the map. I mean, they have the requisition to bring out either some more tax or something like that, but at this point, unleveled tax just aren't going to be doing too much at all to this massive chaos. You can see Kaldoot's Force Commander finally upgraded with that Thunder Hammer. If he gets his battle cry off and starts dropping some special attacks in the middle of all these Chaos troops, that could make a big difference as far as messing up all this melee. However, here comes another Chaos Predator, and without that Power Fist, it's not going to really have any contestation at all. Oh, if you're a fan of Chaos, I'm sure you're having a blast. If you're a fan of Space Marine, this is just tough to watch. Scouts and everything just still doing what they can to try to obliterate as many Chaos units as they can before falling. Librarian, a second one goes down there. Kaldoot and Blauwind down to 3 Scout squads and a Devastator, both heading into Tier 3. But I doubt it's even going to matter. There's 52 VPs left. They've got tons of red. They could have brought some Terminators on the field if they've only have the power income. But the blue team's pretty consistently held this power node over here and at least been contesting and destroying any power that the Reds had on this side. Chaos Predator upgrading to the Mark of Nurgle, which has been improved a bit here in the Elite mod. And we got a bit of a little Chaos Stronghold hanging out over here. You see the heal pulses getting activated on these Nurgle Shrines. This also allows for reinforcement on the field. Of course, Chaos don't have a transport that do that, so that's their only means of field reinforcement. Chaos Lord upgraded with all kinds of nasty gear at this point in the game. Lightning Claws, Mantle of Hate, and a Demonic Visage. Trying to contest with all the bling that we've seen on these Force Commanders throughout the game. Kaldoot in particular has 3 weapons at this point. He's had the Power Sword earlier on, has the Power Fist now, was using the Thunder Hammer earlier. Another grenade going down in the center, doing everything they can. The red team's managing to keep the VPs neutral at least, and buy themselves some time maybe to get some Tier 3 tech on the field. As Force Commanders and Space Marines, getting to Tier 3 can always make a huge difference. But against this kind of overwhelming odds, I'm just not sure that it's going to matter. We have, oh my gosh, is that 1 or 2? I think that's 2 orbital bombardments at the same time. Beams coming down from the sky all over the map. Oh my goodness, obliterating Chaos, not managing to take out any squads, but what a visual display to close out the game here. Oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever seen 2 cotaneous orbital bombardments like that before, but why not? At least it gives us something fun to look at. Calling in the final strike from their command carriers, the Force Commanders have not managed to secure any ground here. And the final VPs are going to start ticking away. So not necessarily the best game to close out 208 with, but it was a lot of fun. We got to saw a las turret. We saw some double whirlwinds, which unfortunately didn't have too much impact, as there was a Chaos Predator on the field by the time they got out here. But what a game. That was pretty wacky. Very much obviously in the favor of the Chaos players. The Space Marines just got overwhelmed a bit early there and lost too many squads. Once that kind of massive pile of Chaos melee that I've been talking about so much this game got rolling, I mean, all you had to do was just retreat a second too late and everything gets obliterated. You can see the Chaos Lord there, life draining one sad last little scout. And while it gets just hung in the air and pounded by a Chaos Predator. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. Of course, like I said, don't worry about the holiday giveaway. I'll be announcing the winners to that shortly. Thanks for watching. Be sure to comment, subscribe, like the video. I always appreciate it. This is Red-Rupee. I'll be catching you guys next time.